You've been told to build walls, high, strong walls called personal boundaries. They tell you this is how you protect your energy. This is how you show strength. But what if this is the single greatest lie you've been taught about personal power? What if these walls are not a fortress, but a prison? A prison that keeps you small, reactive, and fragile. The men who truly command respect, the men whose presence is felt without a word, they don't build walls. They build something else entirely. Something the ancient Stoics understood, and what 99% of modern men have forgotten. In the next hour, we are going to dismantle the myth of personal boundaries piece by piece, and I will show you what to build in its place. If you've ever felt that setting boundaries just leads to more conflict and anxiety, type truth in the comments below. You are in the right place. Let's be clear. The modern world is engineered for emotional chaos. It floods you with notifications, opinions, and provocations from every direction. It's a constant assault on your focus and your peace. In response to this chaos, pop psychology offered a simple solution: the personal boundary, a set of rules to impose on the world. You cannot speak to me this way. I will not tolerate this behavior. This is my safe space. On the surface, it sounds empowering. It feels like taking control. But it's an illusion. It places your internal state of mind at the mercy of others' actions. Your peace depends on their compliance. The moment someone crosses your line, your wall is breached, and your tranquility is shattered. This is a strategy of defense. It's a strategy for the weak. A truly strong man doesn't build his peace on land he doesn't own. He builds it inside himself. He operates from a position of internal command, not external negotiation. This is the fundamental shift we will make today. 1. The myth of the fragile self. The modern concept of boundaries is built on a fragile premise that you are inherently vulnerable, that your emotional state is a delicate thing that must be shielded from the harsh realities of the world. It encourages you to see words as weapons, disagreements as attacks, and others' opinions as genuine threats. The Stoic, however, operates from a different premise. He understands that nothing external can truly harm his inner self, his ruling center, without his consent. The perceived harm is not in the event itself, but in the judgment he attaches to it. A man who believes he is fragile will spend his life building walls. A man who knows his core is untouchable will walk through the world unburdened. The first step is to reject the identity of a victim. You are not glass. You are forged iron. 2. The wall versus the citadel. This is the central metaphor you must grasp. A boundary is a wall. You build it on the perimeter of your property. It's a line you dare others to cross. Its strength depends on the discipline of others. It is, by its very nature, a reactive structure. You are constantly policing it, repairing it, and stressing over it. A citadel, however, is built in the center of your kingdom. It is your mind, your principles, your reasoned choice. It does not depend on anyone else. It is a source of proactive power. You can let the world rage outside the citadel's walls. It doesn't matter. Your peace, your power, and your decisions are made within. The man with walls is always looking outward for threats. The man with a citadel is always looking inward for strength. He shifts his focus from controlling others to mastering himself. 3. Your no is not a request. When most people say no, it's a plea. It's filled with anxiety. Please don't cross this line. It will make me feel bad. It's a negotiation. It invites a counter-argument. A Stoic no is different. It is not a request for others to change their behavior. It is a simple statement of fact about your own. It's not, you can't ask me to do that. It is, I do not do that. The first is a weak attempt to control another person. The second is a powerful declaration of your own principles. One is a hope. The other is a reality. Practice this shift. Stop asking the world to accommodate your feelings. Start informing the world of your principles through your actions. The power is not in the word no, but in the unshakable conviction behind it. 4. The fallacy of controlling outcomes. The desire for boundaries is rooted in the desire to control outcomes. If I set this boundary, then that person will treat me better. If I enforce this rule, then I will feel respected. This is a fool's errand. You cannot control other people. You cannot control their thoughts, their words, or their actions. The only thing in this universe you have absolute control over is your own mind, your judgments, your responses, your assent to impressions. The Stoic redirects all his energy toward this single point of control. Instead of being frustrated that someone disrespected his boundary, he examines why he allowed their words to disturb his peace. He doesn't try to fix the world. He forges his mind. 5. The poison of taking things personally. Offence is not given, it is taken. This is a core tenet that dismantles 90% of the need for defensive boundaries. When someone insults you, they are merely offering an opinion based on their flawed perception of reality. It is a collection of sounds. It only becomes an insult when you agree with it on some level, when you give it your assent and allow it to penetrate your citadel. A man with a strong internal frame doesn't need to say, "Don't talk to me that way." His calm indifference says it for him. He understands that another person's rage is their own poison. He simply chooses not to drink it. This is not passive. It is the ultimate act of self-control. It is a power they can't touch. 6. Principles over feelings. Modern boundaries are almost always based on feelings. This makes me feel uncomfortable. This hurts my feelings. This is a foundation of sand. Feelings are fleeting and unreliable. They change with the weather, with your level of sleep, with what you ate for lunch. A man cannot build his life on such a foundation. The Stoic alternative is to establish boundaries based on principles, on virtues, justice, courage, temperance, wisdom. For example, instead of, "I don't like it when you gossip," the principle is, "I do not participate in conversations that tear others down." The first is about your discomfort. The second is about your character. One is a complaint. The other is a standard. Men of substance are defined by their standards, not their complaints. 7. The concept of emotional labour is a trap. You will hear this phrase often. The idea that managing your own emotions or dealing with others' emotions is a form of draining labour. This is a mindset that breeds resentment and weakness. It frames emotional resilience as a chore. For the Stoic, managing one's own mind is not labour. It is the primary work of a human being. It is the practice. It is the entire point. To complain about the labour of maintaining your own composure is like a blacksmith complaining about the heat of the forge. It is the very element in which you are shaped. Stop seeing emotional challenges as a tax on your energy. Start seeing them as resistance training for your soul. Each one makes your citadel stronger. 8. Amputate hope and fear. Much of the anxiety around boundaries comes from two sources: hope that someone will finally respect them, and fear that they won't. Seneca advised that to find peace, we must amputate these two things. Stop hoping for others to change. Accept them as they are. This doesn't mean you must tolerate them, but it means your plan cannot be contingent on their transformation. And stop fearing the consequences of their actions. What is the worst that can happen if they cross a boundary? They will say words. They will think a certain way about you. To a Stoic, these are externals. Indifferent. They cannot touch your character. When you release the need for a specific outcome from others, you become truly free. 9. The boundary of time and attention. This is where a Stoic's boundaries are fiercely real. Not on what people can say to him, but on what he allows to occupy his mind. His most valuable resources are his time and his attention. He understands that a minute spent on trivial outrage is a minute stolen from his purpose. His boundary is a ruthless filter. Is this useful? Is this virtuous? Does this align with my goals? If the answer is no, he disengages, not with anger or a dramatic announcement, but with the quiet efficiency of a man who has more important things to do. He doesn't build a wall to keep drama out. He simply makes his mind an uninteresting place for drama to live. 10. Let your actions be your argument. A man who constantly has to announce his boundaries is a man who has none. He talks a good game, but his actions betray him. He says he won't tolerate disrespect, but he keeps returning to the disrespectful person. He says his time is valuable, but he wastes it on pointless arguments. The man with an internal citadel does not need to speak. His actions are his boundary. When he decides a relationship is no longer virtuous, he walks away. Quietly. When he decides a conversation is pointless, he stops responding. Decisively. He does not debate. He does not negotiate. He acts in accordance with his principles. This is the only language that commands true respect. 11. The power of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is a core Stoic practice that builds immense resilience. Instead of hoping things go well, you actively visualize things going wrong. You imagine people crossing your lines, betraying your trust, insulting you, not to create anxiety, but to strip these events of their power. By facing them in your mind beforehand, you rob them of their shock value. When the event actually occurs, your response is not, "Oh no, my boundary has been violated." It is, "Ah, yes, I considered this might happen. It is unpleasant, but it is not fatal. My citadel is prepared." A man who is surprised by a storm will panic. A man who has practiced for the storm will calmly adjust his sails. 12. Your circle of control. Draw a circle. Inside it, write down everything you have complete control over. Your beliefs, your judgments, your actions, your will. Outside the circle, write down everything else. Other people's opinions, the economy, the weather, your reputation. The modern man with weak boundaries spends all his energy trying to manage things outside the circle. He is constantly frustrated. The Stoic focuses 100% of his effort on what is inside the circle. This is not a boundary to keep the world out. It is a boundary for your own focus. It is the ultimate source of power and tranquility. By focusing only on your own actions, you become untouchable by the chaos outside. 13. Amor fati. Love your fate. This is the highest level of Stoic thought. It goes beyond mere acceptance of what happens. It means to actively love it, to see every obstacle, every insult, every boundary violation, not as a problem, but as an opportunity to practice courage, an opportunity to practice patience, an opportunity to practice wisdom. The obstacle is the way. The man who needs the world to be a certain way to be happy is a slave. The man who can find benefit in any circumstance is a king. He doesn't need boundaries to protect him from reality, because he has embraced all of reality as his training ground. This is the mindset that makes a man invincible. 14. Distinguishing needs from preferences. The weakness of modern boundaries is that they elevate preferences to the level of needs. I need you to speak to me in a softer tone. You do not need this. You prefer it. Your survival does not depend on it. A Stoic is ruthless in identifying his true needs: virtue, reason, tranquility. Everything else is a preferred indifferent. It would be nice to have, but his well-being does not depend on it. When you can honestly say, "I would prefer your respect, but I do not need it to maintain my own peace," you have disarmed the other person completely. Their ability to affect you vanishes. That is a real boundary, an internal one. 15. The role of the role model. Who do you admire? Think of a man, real or historical, who embodies strength and composure. A Marcus Aurelius, a Theodore Roosevelt. Now, when faced with a challenge to your peace, ask, what would he do? Would he complain? Would he announce his feelings were hurt? Or would he act with dignity, courage, and purpose? This mental exercise is a powerful tool. It lifts you out of your own petty emotional reactions and connects you to a higher standard of behaviour. It's a way of borrowing strength from the great men who came before you. Your boundary becomes not a rule you wrote in a journal, but a standard of excellence you strive to embody. 16. The danger of the venting culture. Modern advice tells you to vent your frustrations, to talk endlessly about how your boundaries were crossed. This is a trap. It reinforces the story of victimhood. It rehearses the injury, making it stronger in your mind. The Stoic practices the opposite. He seeks to diminish the impression, not magnify it. He uses reason to analyze it, to see it for what it is, an external event devoid of inherent meaning. He may discuss it with a trusted mentor to gain wisdom, but he does not vent to solicit sympathy. One path leads to clarity and strength. The other leads to a cycle of grievance and weakness. Choose wisely. 17. Physical fortitude and mental fortitude. The Stoics understood the deep connection between the body and the mind. A man who subjects himself to voluntary physical hardship, cold showers, intense exercise, fasting, fortifies his mind against emotional hardship. When you willingly choose discomfort, you teach your brain that you are not a slave to it. You are its master. This physical practice builds the mental muscle needed to endure insults or slights without flinching. A man who has pushed himself to his physical limits is less likely to be derailed by someone's careless words. His boundary is forged in the gym and in the cold, not just in his head. 18. Indifference is a superpower. The Stoic concept of apatheia is not about being emotionless. It is about being free from irrational and unhealthy passions. It is a state of tranquil clarity. This is the goal. When someone tries to provoke you, your goal is not to win the argument. It is to remain in this state of tranquility. Your indifference to their bait is the most powerful response you can have. It communicates that they do not have the power to move you, that they are not operating on your level. A man who can remain calm while others are losing their minds possesses a form of power that is both intimidating and deeply respectable. He has a boundary they cannot even see, let alone cross. 19. From you, statements to I actions. The language of weak boundaries is filled with you statements. You made me feel. You need to stop. You crossed a line. It is a language of blame and powerlessness. The Stoic framework is built on I actions. I will not participate in this. I am choosing to leave this conversation. I will focus on what I can control. This is not a semantic trick. It is a fundamental realignment of power. It takes the focus off the other person, over whom you have no control, and places it squarely on yourself, over whom you have total control. Stop trying to write the script for other people's lives. Focus on writing and acting your own. 20. The ultimate boundary is your purpose. A man without a clear purpose in life is driftwood. He is pushed and pulled by the currents of other people's agendas and emotions. He needs boundaries because he has no direction of his own. But a man with a driving purpose, a mission, has the ultimate boundary. His purpose acts as a filter for everything. Does this person, this activity, this argument serve my purpose? If not, it is discarded. Not with malice, but with the dispassionate focus of a craftsman who has no time for distractions. When you know what you are building, you don't have time to worry about the barking dogs on the side of the road. Find your purpose, and you will find the only boundary you will ever need. So we return to the beginning, to the lie of the wall. For an hour, we have systematically dismantled it. We have shown that building external walls only reinforces internal weakness. The path to true strength, to the power that 1% of men understand, is not outward, but inward. It is the slow, deliberate, daily work of building an inner citadel, a fortress of reason, principles and self-control that no one can breach. This is not a quick fix. This is the life's work of a superior man. The ultimate boundary is not something you set for others. It is the standard you set for yourself. Stop asking the world for respect and start commanding it through your own unshakable character. Thank you for dedicating your time to this crucial work. If this resonated with you, subscribe and join a community of men dedicated to building their citadels. Now I have one question for you. Based on what we've discussed, what is one boundary you will now reframe as an internal principle? Share your commitment in the comments below.